How you doing? This video is going to walk through the process that I used to take one of my old short films from 2002 and how I remastered it using DaVinci Resolve. So, here we go. All right, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about the movie. The movie is called Drowning in a Sea of Estrogen, and we shot it on an old digital 8 camcorder. I don't remember exactly which camera we shot it on, but it shot on actual tape. This is before we were recording to SD or anything like that. We shot this over the course of one night. We had a piece of paper that had like 6 scenes written on it, not like dialogue, just ideas. And then in the span of about 6 hours, from like 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning, we went and we shot a movie. I know we had a lot of fun. I know we were outside in the early hours of the morning shouting, and it ended up with some interesting footage. It wasn't until I got into the edit that I was able to kind of tweak and rearrange things and turn it into something that even today, I think it's kind of special. But there's a lot of technical things that still bother me. Some mistakes that I made when I edited it the first time. The pacing could have been just a little bit faster. I didn't do a color grade because I had no idea what that was. I didn't really adjust the audio, so there was a bunch of like buzzing and hissing in the background. And the worst mistake that I made of all is I put popular music in the background. Music that made it so today I couldn't just put the movie on YouTube. So when I decided, you know what, I think I want to take my old movies and I want to remaster them into 4K so I can post them online, I need to go back and fix some of those things. So let me walk you through the like 9 steps that I took to remaster my movie, Drowning in a Sea of Estrogen. So the first thing I had to do is I had to take it off of an old DVD and get a new digital copy. So the first thing I did is I opened up VLC Media Player, and I was able to go into the drop-down menu and select Capture, Save, and dig into the file system so that I could pick like Chapter 1 on the DVD. It was the only thing on the DVD. It's like a 24-minute short film. I was able to go in there and just click Capture and Save. And so I was able to take it and rip it from my DVD into footage that I could actually use. Once I had that, the next thing I had to do is I had to upscale it to 4K. Now, the poor man's version of upscaling is just taking it and blowing it up and then calling it good. The problem is 4K is a lot higher than 720p, and it doesn't really look good. It just looks pixelated. It doesn't get better. But there is a setting in Adobe After Effects. So I went into Adobe After Effects. I created a new composition that was set to 4K. I took my original footage, I put it in there, and then I used a setting called Detail Preserving Upscale. And so I was able to take it, my 720p image, and upscale it to 4K. And what After Effects would do, it was help try to resolve the missing pixels in between. And that took a really long time. That was like an 8-9 hour render, whatever it was. So I set it, it ran all night long, and then the next day when I came back to the edit, I moved on to actually starting to edit. And I started to go through the footage. Now, a couple years ago, I edited my first feature film, and I learned kind of what I need to do to separate, you know, different things so that it's kind of prepared for I don't know, a theatrical release. And I was trying to go through a similar workflow. So I separated dialogue and sound and different things onto different tracks. The first thing I had to do is I didn't color grade the original footage, and I cut back and forth between a couple different locations. The one thing that made it a little bit easier is the entire movie is improvised. So there's a lot of scenes that don't cut very much. And so I was able to just kind of go through and recut the movie just on where the cuts were in the original footage. So then I could go into DaVinci Resolve and find a new color grade. And I went through and I spent a little while trying to tweak it to get a look that I liked. So I used an ACES workflow. So I import it with an ACES transformer to get it into like a Rec 709, and I'm able to export it back out. But then I went through and I adjusted like primaries. I have a LUT to convert like a digital look to film. I added some color grain. I adjusted the halation and a few other things till I found a look that I liked, and then I applied it appropriately across the different shots throughout all the footage. The biggest thing that I had to do was go through and fix the sound. So I went through and I used some of the new features that are built into DaVinci Resolve 18.5. I was able to use voice isolation, dialogue leveling, noise reduction, de-hummer, and I was able to go through and kind of adjust the settings. I didn't do the same thing for every single scene. Some scenes worked a little bit better than others, but I tried to get the audio as clean as possible. There was a lot of humming in the locations where we shot it at, so this helped to clean that up a lot, and so that the sound was kind of clean in the background. But the opening scene was really problematic. The opening scene has our character. She's playing the movie Ever After with Drew Barrymore and DeGray Scott, and we don't see the screen, but we hear her mouthing along with the original scene. And well, for one, I don't own copyright to that, so that was going to be problematic. And then immediately it cuts to a song by Alien Ant Farm called Movies. And it worked great for the original movie, but again, I don't have clearance to use those songs. So what I ended up doing is I used voice isolation from DaVinci Resolve, and it basically cut out everything except for like words. But the easiest thing, and that kind of worked and that didn't work. So I ended up cutting all the sound from the opening scene up until she says liar. And so I had to build the scene from the ground up. I went into audio, AUDIIO, where we've paid for a subscription. It's like MusicBed and some of these other services. We've paid for a subscription, and I was able to get this nice, like, happy music. So I put that in the background, and I pulled some sound effects so I could kind of build it up so it was like you were actually hearing a movie. So there's like birds chirping in the background and some wind effects. So it sounded like when she puts the tape into the VCR, an actual movie comes on and you just hear it. And then I redubbed DeGray Scott's sound. So I took just a little microphone. I used a blue snowball. And then I tried to use the ADR feature that's built in to DaVinci Resolve, but I couldn't get it to work quite right. So I ended up going over to Adobe Audition to record, and I played the video, I watched it, I voiced it along with it, and then I took that sound and I put it straight into Resolve, so that the new sound is not DeGray Scott, it's me. I'm saying the text, the lines from the original, but with my voice and with my new sound design built up underneath it, and with some nice audio that we had clearance for from audio. And so I was so proud of it. I had my wife come in and listen to it the first time. She's like, okay, what's the big deal? And that's the point. Hopefully you can't tell that I rebuilt all the sound up and none of that is original until she says liar. And then I immediately have to cut to another song. Now, here's where voice isolation in DaVinci Resolve kind of worked and kind of didn't. Some of the songs that I had playing in the background had lyrics. And so I would put it on at 100%, and it would cut out a lot. It would cut out all the music and then some of the dialogue, but it would leave some of the lines still in there. And so I tried to cut around it so it wasn't interfering with the actual dialogue. And here's one of the mistakes I made is I had one audio track for the whole movie. I didn't have the audio tracks that I could just level and pull things out. It was one audio track. That's why I had to pull the music out of it, but trying to preserve the actual lines. And that was tricky. So I was able to preserve some lines while others, but when I went through and I got new music from audio, I was able to kind of cover up the background a little bit. And when it's playing the new music, you can't really tell that there's still some of the bad sound left there. And so that worked pretty well. And so we were able to go through, recolor grade the movie, kind of redesign the sound, build the soundtrack back up again. And so at that point, the only thing left to do was to render out the movie. So I go down to the render tab, I hit go, and I render out a 4K version of the movie. Now, one of the other problems that I had along the way is the movie was originally shot in an interlaced, I don't know, it was recorded interlaced. So when you pause it, you can kind of see the different interlacing lines on the screen. It's something we don't deal with anymore, but it was an issue back then. It's how they could kind of read out the image. That's something I couldn't figure out how to fix. But all in all, I was able to spend a couple nights kind of reworking my old movie from 2002, and now it's 4K. Now it's legal, copyright wise, and it's something that my friends were able to enjoy. So I put it onto YouTube as just unlisted. I shared it out with them to make sure that they were okay with me sharing it with you. And now that I've done that and I have their permission, because this was a long time ago and we were much younger, I was one of the actors in the movie as well. But now we have a 4K version of the movie. So I hope that hearing this process was kind of helpful for you. And I hope you follow the link wherever it is on the screen. Check out the movie. And I hope you enjoy it.